I mean, I've written previously that William doesn't want him at the coronation.
Wow.
So, and my understanding is that hasn't really shifted. Whether or not, when the time comes and the constitutional realities and the public perception realities are facing William, whether or not he changes his mind, but in an ideal world, in his world, as things stand now, he wouldn't want him there. They haven't spoken they haven't seen each other for 4 years. He feels still very let down, very hurt, very betrayed by not just Harry leaving the royal fold, because that's his decision, but I think the manner in which he did it and what he has said and done since, those are things that William can't forgive.
Now, there was a bit of a royal reunion. King Charles caught up with his grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, for the first time in 4 years, after Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, visited the King and Queen at Highgrove in Gloucestershire yesterday. I'm delighted that Roya Nikkhah joins us now. She, of course, is the brilliant royal editor of the Sunday Times. She's a woman in demand all the time at the moment. So I'm very glad she joined us. Hello, Roya.
Hello. Better to be in demand, I figure, than not in demand, as much as I wondered about it. This very busy patch.
It is a very busy patch. I feel like royals and politics are really, really sort of busy. So look, what do we know about this visit?
Well, relatively little, which can only be a very good thing, I think, as far as the King and Queen are concerned. We know that yesterday afternoon, Charles and Camilla hosted Harry and Meghan and the kids, Archie and Lily, at Highgrove, which is where Charles is based in the country. We know that both sides, for the time being, are very keen to keep it under wraps. There are no official pictures released. Neither side has briefed what happened. Long may that hold, because I think in previous meetings there has been an issue with allegations that Harry's camp leaked some details, and that always really annoys Buckingham Palace and the King. So the hope is, if the details can stay under wraps and it stays a private family occasion, which is how the palace described it, I think that will be for the best and possibly open the door to more meetings in the future. Discretion
seems to be absolutely germane to any kind of healing.
Yes, given that we have had the best part of 6 years where there's been a lot of indiscretion in terms of Harry's memoir, the Netflix documentary, countless television interviews, podcasts, just Oprah spilling all those...
The chicken shed thing.
The chicken shed, spilling all those secrets, airing all those family grievances. The royal family have found that difficult. The King has had enough of that. And so this is a chance to sort of slightly reset the relationship onto a much better footing going forwards.
And in terms of, this wouldn't have come out of nowhere. Talk us through sort of the run up to this and what's kind of been going on behind the scenes, maybe a very slow sort of thawing.
Well, last September, when Harry was over in the UK for a week of engagements with his charities, he managed to see the King for about 50 minutes at Clarence House.
50 or 15?
50.
Okay.
He has let it be known ever since, and I did a piece a few months ago, with Harry basically saying, I want the King to invite me and the kids to Sandringham. He has let it be known that he had wanted to do that. The issue has been, so Harry says, security, this long-running battle to get his security, armed protection reinstated in the UK. He has not achieved that yet. He lost that battle with the Home Office last year in court. He has pursued it, trying to get that reviewed this year. That hasn't happened. The interesting thing about this trip, I think, one of the interesting things is it kind of shows that he can bring his wife and kids back to the UK. He has his long-held position it's not safe enough. He's done it without hitch.
Oh, that is a very interesting point. And look, he wanted to, what happened with, I got really confused about this Buckingham Palace story. Did they offer him a room there? And then what happened?
Well, what happened officially and what actually happened are two different things. For the last month, the King had offered Harry, as soon as he knew he was coming, the King offered Harry a place to stay at Buckingham Palace.
Which is nice.
He's offered it before. It's been rejected for previous trips.
Okay.
He offered it again. The mood music, that all they got back from Harry was that he didn't want to do that. At the 11th hour last Saturday...
Why didn't you want to do it?
Wouldn't be secure enough, Buckingham Palace.
Gosh.
Last Saturday, in writing, he rejected it. A few hours later, he changed his mind and accepted it, at which point the King and Buckingham Palace said, your time's up, you've missed the deadline, you haven't got it. But then, on Monday, Harry's team told us all he'd accepted the offer and would be staying. Within minutes, Buckingham Palace said, no, he's not, he missed the deadline. The key thing they added on, they'd obviously had more of a think about it over the weekend, they were extremely nervous about what he might do or say after that judgment came down from the court on Tuesday. And they were proved right. Harry lost that case against Associated Newspaper and he issued a blistering attack on the judge and the legal system and the judiciary, which is in the King's name. And they were worried, as I've said in my read, which is about to be published online on the Times website, they were very worried that he would go and give a blistering attack from inside palace walls, and constitutionally how tricky that would make it for the King. So it was all of those things. Officially a deadline missed. I think that's a bit petty. Your son should be able to say he's coming whenever. I think really at the heart of it was more they were extremely nervous about him doing that.
Yeah, that definitely makes more sense. And look, because when I just heard about the timing and you just missed the deadline, I was thinking that's a bit mean, isn't it?
There's a little bit in there in terms of when Harry gets to stay at the palace, if he does, they have to,
got to clean the sheets and stuff. Got to do it, like put a wash on.
Open the rooms up, increase the security, have
air
staff.
the rooms.
Have staff there. Well, no one lives there at the moment,
Get
literally.
some loo roll in, all that kind of stuff.
But I think it was less to do with the deadline and more to do with them being very nervous of him having his Evita moment in the palace.
And look, talk to us about the fallout of this legal case, because gosh, I mean, it was a pretty decisive view from the judge. Obviously, Harry was very upset. The claimants are very upset. Everyone is very upset. Paul Dacre's everyone's very cross.
There's going to be a lot more on that from Jim Armitage in a piece about the case that we will publish later tonight, I believe. But yeah, I mean, Harry's incredibly upset about it. You saw that from the statement he gave afterwards with Baroness Doreen Lawrence. You would hope, I know that the royal family hope and lots of people close to Harry hope that he will draw a line under it, that he won't appeal it. I'm told by those close to him he's not going to think about whether or not to appeal until he gets back to America at some point next week. He's going to spend time with friends in the UK for a bit longer. I think, personally, it'd be a great thing if Harry could draw a line under it and actually stop fighting. Stop fighting his family, stop fighting the media, stop fighting the government, and try and become a bit of a peacetime prince. I think that would be a good thing for him.
Do you know, I have to say, I do agree with you. I do really agree with you, Roy. And I have been incredibly sympathetic to Harry over the years. I ended up doing an event after he first left.
I remember.
And he got in contact with me.
Travelist,
Travelist. And, I was a great defender. I do think what happened was really, really sad. And I was very upset by it. And I remember when they got married, and it seemed like it was a real kind of great moment for the country and for the royal family and for all of us. It was like that wedding was a real feel-good moment. It was kind of modern Britain, and I thought the loveliest moment was the King sort of with Meghan's mum, because Meghan's dad wasn't there, obviously, which was another whole drama in itself, but he was there with her mum, so her mum wasn't by herself. And I just thought, this is so lovely. Like, this is what an amazing, like, you could not think of people from more different backgrounds. Meghan Markle's mum there, with the King and Camilla and everything. It was like, oh my goodness, everyone's, and the pastor and all of that sort of thing. You're like, yeah, this is going to be a great moment. I remember writing many pieces for it, and I remember the excitement of a whole generation of kind of young girls, particularly girls from different backgrounds, going, yeah, I'm really interested in the royal family now. And then it all fell apart so quickly, and it was so. And I do think the way Meghan was treated personally, I know lots of people might disagree, but I do. And I spent a lot of time just me and him in a room, him telling me about everything that he'd been through, and my heart kind of broke from him, because I did see quite a damaged, quite a fragile person who clearly is definitely still traumatised by the loss of his mother, and obviously has found something in his new wife and doesn't want history to repeat itself. But I do agree with you now. It does feel like he's expending a huge amount of emotional labour over this, and I think he's just essentially just a bit lost and does want to. I think he's got his grievances about the past, and I think that is fine. But there comes a point in life you do have to try and move on.
I wouldn't disagree with anything you've just said there. I think a lot of people hope for Harry he is able to move on and move forwards. And let's not forget, he has had 2 previous victories in his tabloid crusade. So it hasn't been all for nothing. But I think this has sort of got to draw a line, and I think that meeting with the King, which will boost Harry, it will boost him personally, and it will boost him in the public's mind. It just will, because his charity work is fantastic. Invictus is fantastic.
And I think he was there with Al Carnes last night, and there was like lots of people there.
But it's not enough. That no longer sustains him in the public's mind anymore. It's what has overtaken that image of him being, the happy chappy prince who does so much good work for charity in the military, is this image of him being someone who constantly looks back, complains, fights battles with anyone who disagrees with him. I think going forwards, if he's to reclaim some of that goodwill, and it does matter to him, even if he says he doesn't, it does matter to him what people think of him here, the country of his birth, his homeland. I think a fresh start, use that meeting with the king and the royal family, possible rapprochement, although not with his brother, to just turn a new chapter a little bit.
And when you say he does care about what people think about him here, do you think that signifies that if there was any way he could come back and fulfil some kind of place in public life, do some public service, that he would want to do that?
I think he probably would, but on his own terms and in his own way. And to be honest, I don't see that happening. I think the king would know that it's too difficult to do the half in, half out thing. And there's absolutely nowhere in the world that Prince William would be up for that. And any decision that is now taken about the future of the monarchy and the present monarchy, William has a big say in too. And
there's no movement with the brother.
No movement with the brothers, and I don't foresee there being any movement there.
So if when William becomes king, will Harry even be invited to the coronation?
I mean, I've written previously that William doesn't want him at the coronation.
Wow.
So, and my understanding is that hasn't really shifted. Whether or not, when the time comes and the constitutional realities and the public perception realities are facing William, whether or not he changes his mind, but. In an ideal world, in his world, as things stand now, he wouldn't want him there. They haven't spoken they haven't seen each other for 4 years. He feels still very let down, very hurt, very betrayed by not just Harry leaving the royal fold, because that's his decision, but I think the manner in which he did it and what he has said and done since, those are things that William can't forgive.
And what about Meghan in all of this? Because she is a lot. Lots of people, I think, quite unfair. Were quite, in my view, this is just my view. A lot of people didn't like her here and was quite popular. I think that's a bit unfair, but that's my view. But she a lot of people don't like her. She had a very, very difficult time with the press here and with members of the royal family, a lot of senior members of the household. If Harry was to play more of a role in some way or spend more time here, how do you think she would fit into the equation?
I don't think he's going to play more of a role here.
So
he may well spend more time here. I mean, he's coming back in September for the World Child Awards. He's coming back here in a year's time for the Invictus Games in July 2027. That'll be a big deal. I imagine we will see her with him then. She was supposed to have been with him this week at 2 engagements, but she pulled out, citing security concerns. I don't think Meghan particularly wants to build any bridges with the UK or the royal family here. She's brought the children over because she wanted to support Harry and she wanted, like him, the kids to see their grandfather. But she's not as focused as he is on rehabilitating her image here. That matters to him. I don't think it matters to Meghan.
And what kind of life are they building in America now? Because, of course, there's been lots of podcasts and Netflix things, but I can't work out if they're doing well or not. What's the reality of their new world in America, their new life?
I think that's really one of the key issues for Harry and Meghan is brand building. And, apart from the Invictus Games, again, which I've said repeatedly are a brilliant thing and to be applauded, what does Harry stand for? Apart from the all-consuming legal battles against the media, which we hope might be at an end now, what does Harry stand for? And I think previously, he had a very clear identity of the warrior military prince.
And the wee boy behind us, the funeral cortege, we all remember that.
We all remember that, but I think when you leave the UK, you leave the royal family in hope of, as they said, forging a different kind of independence and future and freedom, you need to be a bit clear about where that's going and what that is. And I think Meghan clearly wants to build a brand in terms of her as ever, thing, whether that's fashion or raspberry jams.
Harry, the sprinkled flowers,
petals, whatever you think of that. Harry, I think his direction, I've just always felt since he left the royal family.
Do you think he's still lost? Do you think ironically, he was a bit lost in the royal family, and now that he's left, he's still a wee bit lost?
I just think he hasn't quite carved out a very clear role. I'm not sure he's totally lost. I just think he needs to be a little bit clearer about his direction of travel. I think sometimes people aren't quite sure. And I think that's where, people latch on to what makes the most noise around Harry. And for the last few years, that has been battling and warring. And I think a period of peace would be a fantastic new direction for him.
Peace all across the world, including in the royal family. Well, Roy, thanks for being so generous with your time. And Roy has written a brilliant sort of long read on all of this, and it's just going up online now on the Sunday Times and the Times website. And of course, it'll be in the paper tomorrow as well. Roy, thanks so much for your time. I know how busy you are. We've literally got the royalty of royal reporting here with us in the studio. That's brilliant. Roya Nikkhah.